Whether you are just starting to think about having a baby or you've been on a fertility journey for a while, I have some things that I want to share with you today that I think could be really, really helpful. What happens so often when we're thinking we want to conceive a baby is we focus on the science of it, the conception, ovulation, taking tests, when is the best time of month I can get pregnant. And if we've been on a fertility journey for a while, we all know it goes even way beyond that with sometimes shots and drugs and in vitro fertilization. A lot of things can go into conceiving a baby. And we tend to get very wrapped up in that very human side of things. So I want to talk today about having you look at the spiritual side of conception, because I think when we add that into the equation, then this fertility journey for people can become a lot calmer and a lot more joyful, a lot less stressful. So I just have some things for you to think about. The first thing I want you to think about is when you start to open yourself up to an incoming soul, you're not communicating with a baby. So often we're thinking, I'm opening myself up to a baby that's ready for me, and or at least we think a young soul, and that is just not always the case. A lot of times the person that you're communicating with is of all different ages. So I want you to be very open-minded about opening up this relationship between you and an incoming soul, whether this soul has already chosen you to be their parent or not yet. And maybe it's somebody that's looking for a family to come and be a part of. So that's a really, really important thing, is just be open-minded to whatever visions come through to you. And if it's an old man, it's an old man. In fact, I have a pretty cool story to tell you about that. So not long ago, I was going through a visualization with an amazing friend of mine. She was the one taking me through the visualization. And I found myself at the portal where souls come in to be conceived. And there was a very old man there. And I made my way over to him and I put my arm around his shoulder. And he was explaining to me that he was afraid of being young again because he had had a life that was very, very difficult when he was young. And we just talked. And as we walked closer and closer to the portal, he got younger and younger. And by the time we were very close, he said, "Okay, I'm feeling better and I think I'm ready." And after I came out of the visualization, I told my friend the story, what I had seen, and I let her know, "I think that this soul is here for you. Are you thinking of becoming pregnant?" And so she shared with me that they had tried for quite a while. They were actually starting to think about adoption. And I said, "Well, I think the soul is here for you if you're open to it." And I let it go at that. And the next time we talked, I said, "What are you celebrating?" And she said, "Well, I'm pregnant." And she told me a beautiful story about how not long after we had had our call together, her and her husband had gone on a camping trip out in the wilderness and opened themselves up to this soul. And there he came. So amazing, so beautiful. And that's kind of a next step that I want to talk about, is opening yourself up to the soul and how to do that. So one thing is, we've already talked about the fact that you might not be communicating with a young person or a baby, and just letting yourself open up to messages, spending quiet time. If you have a partner that you're working on conceiving with, opening up together, listening for messages, sharing the messages that you get, and letting it go both ways. So the kinds of things that you want to put out there are soothing words, words of healing, welcoming that soul into your world, sending visions of what it's going to be like when you're together, the things that you want to do together. It's just like opening up a conversation with a new friend. And I think the other thing that I want to encourage you to do is spend time at that portal. It can look whatever it looks like to you. But when you're in quiet time, when you're in meditation, or even when you're going to sleep, just invite yourself to go visit the area, the incoming area, if you will, of where the souls are coming through, and just be there and be open to who you see. Be open to conversations that might get started. So that's some tips on just opening up to the soul of an incoming person. And there's a few other things I want you to consider. And one is really trying to take the stress out of sex. Because what's happening when we're trying to conceive and we're on a fertility journey is a lot of times we're so focused around that conception that the anxiety arises and the stress arises. Now, we've all heard about what that does to our bodies, but think about what that does spiritually and how that brings us into a lower vibration, a lower spiritual energy vibration. And that's not where we want to be when we're trying to conceive. We want to be on a high, welcoming, loving, comforting vibration. Okay, so that's something, take the stress out of sex. Really, really big tip there. And I want to tell you a little bit about conception and how magical conception can be so that you can be ready for that. Some things that happen. So some couples, one or the other of the partner, have actually seen the baby, the soul of the baby coming in at conception in lots of different forms. Sometimes it's an orb. A lot of times it's a glowing, beautiful, luminous orb. And they'll see that in the presence, in the area, and then actually coming into the woman's body at conception. So, so beautiful. And another thing is being open to those gentle nudges. So we think, especially if we're working on fertility, we're on a schedule, right? Well, the soul of the baby that has chosen its parents can actually play a part in conception. That soul can actually nudge the couple in the right direction, even if it's during sleep. I have heard some amazing stories about couples just waking up and finding themselves making love. And I actually was doing a class not long ago, an in-person prenatal mediumship class. And I was talking to a woman there who was very pregnant, very close to giving birth. And I asked her, did anything happen at conception that you can remember? She said, no, I don't think so. And then she thought about it and she started crying because I had explained to her, well, sometimes the soul of the baby actually has a part to play in that. And she said, oh, actually, yes. She said that night, my husband and I weren't even supposed to be together. He was on a trip. I was at home and we talked on the phone. And then he ended up coming home. And he said, I just missed you so much. I just had to come home. And we went to bed that night. And in the middle of the night, we basically woke up making love. And that's the night that they conceived their little girl. So just really being open to those nudges. And I'm wanting you to feel into the calmness, feel into the divine timing and guidance of what is going on here. And just rejoice in the glory of conception and pregnancy and all the magic that it can be when you kind of set aside the human factor of what physically is actually happening in fertility. Embrace both sides, embrace the spiritual side as well. And for those of you that are planning on having a family, working on growing a family, all the magical things, I send you so much love, so much blessings, and an open line of communication between you and the souls that are wanting to come have a lifetime. And I'm also looking to talk about adoption pretty soon. So please look for that as well. Have an amazing day.